Money is power. The power to control the money is one that is now in the hands of those who pretend we can't function without them. So how can we do something about it? Working hard to get a raise, lifting that wage up. Inflation takes it like a hidden taxation. Manipulated interest rates to give the banks a way to create money with the loans that they're giving out daily. That means our money is debt, and we gotta pay back more than 100%. No wonder then why the middle class is going under, when the ones above them gotta cover and come to collect. And many have no access to banking, making payments or saving, so more fees are taken. And every day the gatekeepers are trying to stop change. We cannot wait. Welcome to the blockchain.
Welcome to the blockchain. Things are about to change. Open up the gates. Systems get replaced.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. And today I am very happy to introduce Rafael Laverde. And I'll just read a quick bio about him because it's pretty fascinating. Rafael has been a background in private equity and venture capital. He discovered Bitcoin in 2012 while volunteering on Ron Paul's presidential campaign. It's amazing how one guy can inspire so many people. Ron Paul has inspired so many people. So Rafael has served as a board member of the Libertarian Super PAC while doing postgraduate work in economics, and was also a member of the University of Texas Mises Circle.
Yes.
His formal education includes graduate degrees in continental philosophy and psychology. He's been a Bitcoin miner since 2014. He's also managed investor relations for the BitAngels network, which helped finance vast majority of early Bitcoin startups, and was also part of the dApps fund team that revolutionized funding structures that eventually became known as ICOs. So welcome, Rafael. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Glenn. Thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be here with you. I'm really happy that you're spreading the good word of crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start off with this. Give us your perspective on what's happening in the world. Why are we seeing this global push for tyranny right now?
Quite honestly, I think it's because of crypto itself. This is something that I've been saying for a while. They tried their hardest to co-opt Bitcoin to destroy these networks from within. Unfortunate for them, humanity has already been hacked in the most sincere and effective way possible, which is a psychological hack, which is the understanding that we now have the capacity to do without them, that we can enter into cooperative collaboration and networks of honesty, and that when needed, we can seek refuge in networks of privacy.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, I've never heard that perspective. That's great. So tell us, what is this CBDC, central bank digital currency, and what does the average person need to know about it? Why is it bad for freedom? How is it going to lock us down and enslave us? That's what I think it does.
So I think what's really happening here is a bait and switch campaign to confuse people. The most valuable asset in the world right now is information. So the CBDC is not just a financial instrument. A lot of people like to quote scripture and talk about the mark of the beast, but it's more importantly, it's an information instrument.
Yeah.
You are giving away your information freely to these tyrants, to these technocrats. So that's really where the buck stops. It stops with you, and you have to be aware of that. The killer app in crypto is not really defeating the banks, because even the banks know that their future relies on technology itself. Every financial institution of the future will be a fintech company. So we already have a digital dollar. Over 94% of all dollars are digital. The threat of a CBDC is one that would disintermediate the commercial banks. What does that mean? It means that your local bank where you have a personal bank account and personal deposits won't be Chase or Bank of America in the United States. The disintermediation of them becomes the intermediation of the central bank, where your local bank becomes the Federal Reserve. So in the United States, I obviously hope that the people in the United States are rational enough, and I think that they are, because I think the banksters in the United States are rational. I think that a CBDC proper will go against their actual interests. I don't think that's going to happen in the United States. If they were to institute a CBDC from the Federal Reserve, again, it would disintermediate the commercial banks. Your banking, your personal banking would be straight with the Federal Reserve, and you would have a very dysfunctional system for the banking sector itself. So it would go against their own self-interest. I don't think a CBDC proper will ever happen in the United States. The result of such endeavor would be what we see in Argentina, for example, where they disintermediated all the commercial banks, and the Central Bank of Argentina, their version of the Federal Reserve, that tentacle of the octopus, they became the primary lenders of the people, right, of Main Street. And so I don't think a CBDC proper will happen. I think that a lot of this is bait and switch, and a lot of what the deep state does is they're mostly emphasizing in your perception of the world. They target your perception of the world so that they can confuse you easily. So a CBDC, I don't see it happening in the United States. What I do see happening in the United States is what they are telling you, what Elon Musk is telling you. They want a WeChat version for the West. That means that they want to track and trace you. So you are already doing that. You are already giving up your information freely to these tyrants to track and trace you. If you are addicted to TikTok, if you are addicted to Facebook, if you are addicted to Twitter, know that you are somewhat culpable for your addiction, for that dopamine addiction that you're getting from social media. But know that this was engineered to make you a slave to their systems. They are mining you for data. You are their mining ground. It's your mind that they're going after. And so privacy becomes very important in this conversation, because we're not just talking about money anymore or finance anymore in crypto. We're talking about data. And the one thing that the powers that shouldn't be feared most is the capacity for us to do a better job than them in managing our own data. And I mean our own big data. That's possible. And we are doing it. And this is what they fought tooth and nail against. They won't be able to stop. And it's I thank you for being a voice and someone that is teaching people about these things, because every time an individual person hears this message, they become activated members of this network that understands that these technologies exist to keep us safe, keep our private property safe, keep our freedoms safe. So we're in a good place. We're in a very good place. I don't think the CBDC thing is going to happen. I think a lot of it is fear mongering. Are there prototypes from the Federal Reserve, like in Boston, where they are displaying prototypes of what that would look like? Yes. And if you want to look into it, it's called Project Hamilton. But if you look at it closely, if you look at the code in the infrastructure of what they call this private blockchain, which is just, it's not a blockchain, this timestamping mechanism, they use a UTXO model, which is the same that Satoshi gave us in Bitcoin, because they know that Bitcoin scales. So unlike what other people tell you, Bitcoin in its original design scales. And so, yeah, so the too long didn't read answer is CBDCs won't happen as you think they will happen. CBDCs, if anything, they are already here the digital dollar is already here. It's been here for decades now. Over 94% of all dollars are digital. What you should care for is your data. And they can't do anything if you are not giving that data away. So it's very important to use networks that are private by default and seek people and seek circles of trust and seek teams of research where you can learn these things and you can feed off one another. So what the Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Berwick and Ed Bogle started with the Dollar Vigilante and was catapulted by my generation with the Crypto Vigilante is something very special, because now we have a giant research group of like-minded individuals that are constantly researching these things and sharing information with one another. So that's what the Crypto Vigilante newsletter is. The Dollar Vigilante does that as well, but it focuses more on traditional markets, gold and silver as well. Heavy emphasis on precious metals. And we went on to, create Anarchapulco, right? Anarchapulco is the premier crypto anarchist, anarcho-capitalist conference in the world, where we gather every year for 2 weeks, and we sit down and we talk and we have a real good time sharing what we find most valuable in health and wellness, science, medicine, technology.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So let's go into cryptocurrency. And remember, this is for the average person. The audience is the average person. They're not into cryptocurrency. So everyone's heard of cryptocurrency. Everyone's heard of Bitcoin, all of this stuff. But can you break it down and tell us, just for the basic person, what is cryptocurrency? What are the benefits of it?
So cryptocurrency is the creation, the full-fledged manifestation of triple entry accounting. Dual entry accounting is the accounting system that they teach you in school, and is the accounting system that we have since the time of the Medicis. Dual entry accounting is the act of keeping a ledger of your transactions for your business and giving the buyer a receipt. So you exchange goods with receipts throughout the world, and that is the measure by which we keep track of money spent, right? So the creation of these technologies is really the creation of triple entry accounting, that with the science of cryptography, we're able to have a third entry, which is the cryptographic receipt itself. Now, these technologies did not just stop there. This cryptographic receipt is now shared by all members of a community that interact with this given digital asset. We call this a blockchain. So you no longer have to keep a personal account of what you should, right? Obviously, of what you sell or buy. But you can rest assured that there is a third party that is cryptographically secure and secured by all the computers in that network at the same time, that is updated X amount of time, X amount of minutes or seconds throughout the world in synchronicity. So that's what these technologies really are. Now, another way to understand these technologies is, when it comes to the world of digital assets, everyone here watching this is familiar with the notion of copy and paste, right? You click copy, click paste. Well, what if I told you that there were assets, digital assets, that you cannot copy and paste? And that cryptographic receipt that I spoke to you about just now comes forth from a series of mathematical equations and solutions that we call signatures, right? It's just a math signature. This math signature as a digital asset, whatever it may represent, even if it's just that signature itself, because as we know, signatures are valuable, that in itself, you cannot copy paste. And that's the genius of all of this. You cannot copy paste. Now, the genius of all of this takes a step further when you realize that we are not dealing with a world of just virtual beings, but we're dealing with the world of human beings. And this is where Austrian economics, the science of human action praxeology, comes in. The creators of these technologies understand that and economic incentives have to be aligned with human nature in order for this new digital asset class to be functional in the world. The rules by which we live as human beings and the rules by which we interact with each other, they're not rules imposed on us, they're just rules given, innate in nature. And we acquiesce to those rules. For example, gravity, right? Some people don't believe gravity exists, but sure, whatever you call it, thing that keeps me down, right? Time, right? I'm limited in time. There's scarcity in time. My space, my incorporability, right? I am here in this body right now. I am this body, right? I am this body, and I can't, or I'm in this body, however your idea of human persons is. I'm here, I can't be there. I can't bilocate unless I have special powers, right? My historicity, right? I have so much of a perspective that is limited. No matter what I can do, there's nothing that can keep me away from the limitedness that I have as a human being. So we are constrained by things that ground us to this reality that we're in. So a good network in crypto is one that takes into account these economic realities that are very much at the root of what it means to be a human person. And in philosophy, you learn that you're only a person when you are in relation to another. In philosophy, philosophers that specialize in personalism, that's what they say. That if you're by yourself, isolated, you cease to be a person. You're only a person when you're in relation to another. And so it's interesting that the science of economics comes from a lot of these questions that philosophers would ask themselves when they would visit the text of Aristotle to say, well, what is it that gives you meaning, fulfillment, and happiness in your personal life? And then they would have a series of answers for that, right? And the history of philosophy is filled with that. But then the question arose actually in Spain, when during the scholastic era that the texts were brought in into the West of Aristotle, and the Greek text came in, and they're like, well, given what he's telling us here, Aristotle's telling us here, how do we reach happiness in an I-thou interaction? What is that? How should we practice? How should we behave? And what they discovered is obviously peace, love, harmony, freedom. And the key point was voluntary exchange. Voluntarism is really at the heart of economic thought. That you can have a peaceful exchange with another human being that is beneficial for both. Where now the heart of what makes society virtuous is not politics, it's not some top-down bullshit, some centralized authority at the Fed. No, what makes us virtuous with each other is the plaza, it's the marketplace, the agora. So anyone that is creating a cryptocurrency, or anyone that is partaking in the space in general, needs to ask themselves, is the network that I'm dealing with something that clashes with the reality that human beings live in? Or is it something that complements it? Furthermore, is it something that augments that reality that we are in? And the best of crypto networks do that. They respect who we are as human beings, and what they do is in our limitedness, what they do is that they augment our capacity. So now I don't only have to enter, I now don't, because of Bitcoin, for example, I don't only have, I used to only be able to enter into a voluntary exchange with someone that was like proximate to me, right? Anyone that was far away from me, I had to trust a third party to be some sort of escrow or intermediary or arbitrator. But now with the creation of triple entry accounting, where there's a cryptographic receipt shared by all within a network, that means I can enter into a voluntary exchange that is person to person with anyone across the world at any time. So that is now this is a new asset class, and it's as if people have discovered precious metals for the first time. And Glenn is over there saying, guys, I found this thing is really strong. Maybe and dude, it cuts real good. I can sharpen it very well. There's more abundance of this than the other minerals. Shit, I'm gonna make swords out of it. And he discovered iron, right? And then someone else, Jeff Berwick, says, you know what? Look at this shiny yellow thing I found. He discovers gold, right? Ed Bugles discovers silver. And then and then all of a sudden you have this new asset class, and everyone's discovering what these things are. And we have we're like cavemen right now in crypto, because we have imagine someone discovering the hammer and someone else discovering the screwdriver, different tools. And then there's hammer team thinking that every problem's a nail, and fuck the screwdrivers because screwdrivers can't hammer as good as hammers, and so that tribalism is happening in crypto. It shows you how young this whole space is, where like people in the privacy coin sector say that their protocols are better than someone building in a honesty network like Bitcoin or what Ethereum is trying to do. So it's like it's kind of ridiculous. It's funny, but it just shows the youth of it all, where we're at, and there's a beauty to it. The space is growing, there's maturity, and there is a plethora of different asset classes that are in themselves different tools for you to use in the best way you see fit. So if you live in a place with a lot of freedom, where the government obeys you and it honors you and respects you, doesn't harass you, and doesn't steal money from you under the word taxation, then you probably won't need a privacy coin if you live in such a place. And if you could please tell me where that is, I want to go there, right? But if you live in a tyrannical place where you kind of encounter the opposite, a privacy coin in a 1930s Germany scenario, 1920s Soviet Union, you might want to leave, you know what I mean? So it's there's just different tools. So it's the creation of triple entry accounting.
Yep.
That augments voluntary exchange, that augments what we can do in relation to others, and that offer us many different dimensions of tools that we can use however you see fit in your personal life.
So we have a lot of different cryptocurrencies out there. The first one was Bitcoin. Obviously, everyone's heard of Bitcoin. And there's other things like privacy coins like Monero and Pirate Chain and that type of thing. Is Bitcoin, because obviously the most important, it's the one that everyone recognizes, everyone knows, but I've seen an interview with you, or kind of a debate between you and a Bitcoin guy, where the current version of Bitcoin is not the original vision of Satoshi, which is the guy that invented Bitcoin. Satoshi had visioned in there a privacy element to it, which is not there with Bitcoin, right? Because if you look at like CoffeeZilla or whatever, just any average person can see any transaction that goes on in Bitcoin. It's all transparent, which means that the government can see everything that goes on too. So does Bitcoin still meet that original vision of Satoshi, or is Monero a better version of that?
So this is at the heart of the Bitcoin civil war. And at the Crypto Vigilante, we have analysts like myself that stand on one side of the Bitcoin civil war, and other analysts like my business partner, Mr. X, who stands on the other side of the Bitcoin civil war. And I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think that what there is that Bitcoiners saw needs in the market, and individuals read into Satoshi and what he did, what he gave us, what they wanted out of Bitcoin, and second, how they understood it, right? So I am of the camp that disagrees with that, actually. I agree with it, but I disagree with it. So, for example, I would say that anyone that has that position, the one that you just described, that Satoshi wanted Bitcoin to be private by default, but he just didn't do it for some reason. I think that is wrong. I personally think that Satoshi created Bitcoin pseudonymous and transparent because it is much more important to have a truth record and honesty machine for a world that grows in, becomes more and more tyrannical with big data. And this reading of Satoshi is one that it takes into account, the one I'm giving you right now, everything that he gave us. The code, not just the 9 pages of the white paper, including the fact that Bitcoin is a Turing complete machine. It's a computer. And Bitcoin allows you to write smart contracts on chain, and you can store data on chain. You can do many things with Bitcoin. This is the perspective. This is the Bitcoin I understood from the moment I got in. When I was part of the BitAngels network, it bothered me a lot that anyone would want to create anything off chain, even a second layer. It made no sense to me. Still doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm a big blocker, is what you would call the camp of the Bitcoin civil war that I fall under. And the extreme perspective of the big blocker worldview, again, is that Bitcoin is an honesty machine. Bitcoin was not created or intended to be a privacy coin. Okay. The network from the Genesis block that still holds to that in the most consistent way possible, and that is minor maximalist, is BSV. And that is the Bitcoin. If you were to put me in a camp in the Bitcoin civil war, that's where I would fall. I'm a minor maximalist, and I'm part of the BS. I love the original design of Bitcoin and everything Satoshi gave us. So, ironically, I agree with the Monero perspective that you described, because you're right. You're 100% right. There were Bitcoiners that I don't want to get conspiratorial, but there were some there was a leak of emails between a federal agent named John Dillion and Bitcoin core devs, specifically Peter Todd, who he coerced and paid and demanded that Peter Todd change the code and start the propaganda that led to turn BTC into what it is. What I read into that was the following. This is what I read into it. They crippled Bitcoin using libertarian rhetoric to confuse libertarians by telling them that they're going to turn Bitcoin into a privacy coin. But every Bitcoiner knew that is impossible. That's never going to fucking happen. It's never going to happen. Try changing a semi's wheel while it's flying at 100 miles an hour. You're not going to do that. So those people that have that same perspective, but followed to the logical conclusion of what these Bitcoiners were proposing, the small blockers that went on to become BTC, what we know as BTC, the logically consistent one said, what I just said, it's not going to happen on the Bitcoin protocol. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. Those same Bitcoiners, they read in some of the messages of Satoshi that Satoshi indeed was someone that wanted privacy and championed privacy and would have wanted to create Bitcoin private by default. Now, sure, he could have said that. Let's say he said that, but did he give us that? No, he didn't give us that. What did he give us? Now, the question that I ask myself is, what did Satoshi gave me? And it's not just a white paper, it's a code with a bunch of opcodes that were turned off by the small blockers during the Civil War and before the Civil War, that we are finally on BSV turning on, and we're doing things you can't do anywhere else in crypto. So it's like, you know, the main premise behind the BSV network is Satoshi was right. Bitcoin is all we ever needed. You can do everything you ever wanted on Bitcoin's original design. This stands at odds with everyone else in crypto, especially, you know, BTC, which says we know better than Satoshi. We know how to change Bitcoin into what our ideal of what it should be is by disabling opcodes and not building on chain, building off chain. And that same rhetoric snowballed into, if you do want to build something like a Turing complete machine to do smart contracts on, go work on Ethereum, get away from Bitcoin. I was of the Bitcoin class. I'm the type of Bitcoiner that would say, when Ethereum came out, I was with the people that launched Ethereum. I was around them, and I was like, these guys were like running around, you know, like chickens with their head cut off, you know, hyping this thing up, and I'm like, what are you doing? Everything you're promising the world to do in Ethereum is possible on Bitcoin's original design. Do you not see that there is Bitcoin script? It's the programming language that Satoshi gave us to program on chain. And all you have to do is not just increase the block size, but also at the same time, the script size increases. And you can program anything you want into Bitcoin. And then this rhetoric of decentralization came in, which to me is nothing more than a communist word for a new form of equality, right? Because it tells you that the productive capitalist class has to be limited in their production capacity. That's what people don't realize when you hear the word decentralization. That's really implicitly what they're telling you. And this is something that is echoed throughout all of crypto, right? The word decentralization. The reality is that what Satoshi really gave us is a meritocracy, a capitalist meritocracy of value, where you can be better than me and compete with me, and I can come back and compete and be better than you. And we can go back and forth, and we benefit each other. So
now let me interrupt you.
That worldview. Sorry, you were saying?
Well, I'm trying to understand that, because when I hear decentralization, what I hear is that, okay, we don't have we don't have like the central banks involved. This is distributed network. So that's what I think of when I think of decentralization, but that's not the way you're using this, right? Because
that's the way they sell it. That's the way they sell it, right? Okay. But in reality, who determines how many nodes should be in the network? And my answer to this is the following. There's nothing wrong with decentralization. Decentralization should be the goal. But how do we get to that goal? Is decentralization something that is centrally planned? See, that's the point that they don't want to touch. That most of these networks they're a group of technocrats, of central planners, of developers that dictate how a network should be decentralized. I think that's wrong. I think that's central planning. I think decentralization should be market driven, right? Is there a global authority saying that there should be X amount of car manufacturers throughout the planet? No, it's a free market. If you want to compete in the car industry, go for it. And we have a very competitive, automobile space throughout the world with no central planners. Give or take 20, 30 car companies, right? So it's market driven. I want decentralization, but I want it to be market driven, not centrally planned. Pay attention, people. When you study a crypto network, when you study it, ask yourself, especially those that talk about decentralization a lot, ask yourself, is there a group of central planners, of central planning technocrats behind this network that use the rhetoric of decentralization for them to be in control of the protocol. And if there is, then you're not really dealing with the decentralized network.
Okay, so when you're, I want to get into this a little bit more because I don't know if I totally understand. So when you say this market driven, which I like that, that's a great approach. Now, are you saying, okay, so that means just create different cryptocurrencies, or are you saying within the Bitcoin
within Bitcoin?
Okay.
Yeah, within any cryptocurrency, what people should be championing more is competition over decentralization. Competition is more important than decentralization.
And competition as it pertains to mining, or as it pertains to development of protocols?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything. Because the moment you say something should be a certain way, it's like the popular communist rhetoric of everything should be equal, we should be egalitarian. You know, it's like, who are you to even determine how many, like, you know, what's fair, what's not? No, let people compete.
Okay, so let's go back to the average person here, and
here, let me answer your question though about, because I only answered half of it. Pardon me, you know, I don't mean to cut you off there, but so the other part of the Bitcoin civil war, which I agree with as well, is one that said Bitcoin's great, but the most important issue facing humanity right now is totalitarianism that comes from the Federal Reserve. And that was something that I believe all Bitcoiners shared at the time, that idea that central planning of money was the biggest problem. Fiat was the biggest problem. Later on, like, guys like me started contesting that, saying, oh, maybe it's not just money, maybe it's really data and information. But that goes back to that other perspective of what Bitcoin is, right? But it is obvious that money is a problem. The Federal Reserve and the central banks and the Bank of International Settlements, they thrive on enslaving people and debasing the currency and decreasing the purchasing power of money that they force us to use, this fiat. Okay, great. Let's fix the money. I agree with that. Those same people were logically consistent, the logical consistent ones that said we need to fix Bitcoin, which is really the Bitcoin Cash and BTC crowd. The real logical consistent ones, in my opinion, the smartest ones, went off to say we need to start from scratch and created Monero. Okay? Birth of the privacy coin, what we call privacy coins, what at the Crypto Vigilante we call cryptocurrencies proper. Okay? Cryptocurrencies that are fungible, that cannot be tracked and traced, that worst case scenario is what you would want to use, right? Bitcoin is a transparent ledger that through blockchain analytics and the collection of metadata, they can track and trace and know exactly who you are and where you are. If you are using Bitcoin, the worst thing you could do is use a block explorer.
Oh yeah, we see where you shop. We see you in the Silk Road. Oh yeah, we see you everywhere you go. You think you're hiding from us? We see everything about you. If you're not private by default at the protocol level, you're not private at all. One here owns Monero. Raise your hand. Where's Monero?
If you're going to use a block explorer, make sure you use it behind a VPN at the very least, because it's every time you look at your wallet balance at a block explorer, they're like, aha, there he is. You just gave up your IP, right? So that's just a tip for everyone there watching. But so Monero does that for people. Monero is really when we talk about cryptocurrencies, like cryptocurrencies proper, it is the hallmark, the staple, the most incredible manifestation of what we know as the free and open source software ethos. The meritocracy of privacy coins is not just one that is capitalist driven like we find in Bitcoin with Bitcoin miners or Bitcoin entrepreneurs, but it's one that comes from the free open source software ethos, which is the open source commit process of developers that we are all welcome to be part of. You don't have to be a developer. I repeat, you don't have to be a developer to be part of this GitHub open source development process. It is the development in a way that is open source that is really not just the birthplace of cryptocurrency, but really where our future relies. I come from a background of private equity, mostly venture capital, and I'll tell you that that Bitcoin was created to destroy venture capital and big tech, and we're doing it. But that's another story. But I welcome everyone to realize that you don't have to even know how to code to know how to use GitHub, to know how to use a repository of open source code. What you just need to do is learn how to use it to communicate with developers, where you as a user can tell developers what bugs you want to see fixed, how to fix them, and then you can coordinate with them better, because with the commit process and of putting issues on GitHub, for example, you can help developers out a ton by just giving your sincere opinion as to, like, well, when I go to Monero, when I go to getmonero.org, the drop-down menu is not working as it should. Maybe it would be better if we had blah, blah, blah. If a developer sees that, and if on top of that, you have bounties like the Monero community has for different commits, for different issues, then you create an incentive structure that constantly betters itself. So, Monero as a technology is composed of 3 privacy techniques. One that protects the sender. That's ring signatures. It protects the sender. The receiver is protected and hidden by something called stealth addresses. And the transaction itself, the amount transacted, is hidden as well by something called another technology called ring confidential transactions. That is the Monero community is known for being extremely cautious and conservative, and they only implement technology that has been extremely peer reviewed, which is very good and very healthy, and it's always improving. Now, there are other cryptocurrencies out there that are competing with Monero that use new forms of cryptography. And the biggest competitor that Monero has is Pirate Chain. Pirate Chain uses zero-knowledge proofs by default at the protocol level, where every single transactions has the capacity of having 1.5 billion with the B as in boy, 1.5 billion decoys. So it's literally impossible to do blockchain analytics on Pirate Chain. With Monero, the way to describe it is Pirate Chain uses more advanced technology. Monero uses technology that is more trusted, which is technology that is older, more peer-reviewed. See the difference?
Yep.
So it's not that one is better than the other. It's just that both communities operate under different preferences, and so I love Pirate Chain. I think Pirate Chain is created a breakthrough in crypto history by being the first to implement zero-knowledge proofs by default at the protocol level. No one else has done that. That took a lot of balls. And because it is the first, there's a saying that he who punches first punches twice. Since it's the first, it gathered around itself a network of contributors and developers and cryptographers that are invested in the development of that technology itself, meaning that arguably it beat Monero to the punch, because any cryptographer or mathematician in the planet that cares for zero knowledge proofs is looking at Pirate Chain, probably invested in Pirate Chain, helping out Pirate Chain. So let's say tomorrow, after Pirate Chain has been very well peer reviewed. Many audits have been done. And let's say tomorrow Pirate Chain, the technology behind Pirate Chain is adopted by Monero. Again, something that I said earlier is when you invest in a cryptocurrency network, you're not just investing in a technology. You are investing in the quality of other investors that invest in that technology. When something new happens in the world, the first ones to figure that thing out are the smartest people in the planet regarding that topic of conversation. A copycat network will get investors and contributors and people that are not as refined as the first network that discovered something, right? So the big competition for Pirate Chain is Monero, because Monero has seasoned cryptographers, but the zero knowledge devs that focus on ZK Starks and ZK Snarks have already grouped around Pirate Chain. So I honestly see these two communities collaborating more as time goes on.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, Monero does use a type of zero knowledge proof called bulletproofs. But I would say that ZK Snarks is something more elegant and more refined and more simple.
That's what Pirate Chain uses.
Yeah, ZK Snarks. Like, you need to realize that for the more simplicity in design something is, the better it is.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, I mean, Monero, the anonymity set of Monero increased significantly in the past. I forgot to what number it increased. Right now, I forgot off the top of my head, but it's not anywhere near what I just mentioned for Pirate Chain, which is up to 1.5 billion decoys. Like,
yeah.
Like, you are like, that's fucking crazy. That's crazy. How can you track and trace that? There's just no way. So if you want freedom, and I would highly recommend you look into Monero and Pirate Chain. I'd say Pirate Chain is really the most, it just goes to show how young the space is. Like, this is very young still. Crypto is very young. Pirate Chain is trading at like 40 cents last time I checked.
Yeah.
It had a run up to $16. Like,
so
again,
let me ask you this real quick. How does the average person, let's just say someone's never been in crypto before. They have never done this before. Let's just say they take $100 and they want to get into Monero or Pirate Chain. What is the best, easiest way for them to just get started right now and get $100 into it?
Okay. The wallet we recommend the most is the Edge wallet, edge.app. Edge.app, like the edge of a table. EDGE, edge.app. It's open source. It has two-factor authentication built within it. I have interviews with Paul Pui, and at the Crypto Vigilante Hardware Summit, I had him come and speak. Look, so I would recommend for them to use the Edge app and start playing with it. Honestly, that's probably the best thing for them to do.
And how do they get the $100 into it then?
You can purchase Bitcoin using fiat. Now, the best way to purchase any cryptocurrency is not to have to go through any intermediary or any bank, is to go person to person. Now, I'm not saying at all, never buy anything from a stranger, especially crypto. Very dangerous. Don't ever do that. Only, work with people you trust. Always make sure you follow the law in your jurisdictions, Obviously, everything I'm saying is not financial advice. You know, I'm just,
Yep.
I'm just an analyst talking about geeky things that I like.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that look, man, honestly, because you kind of want to get to the point as to like, how do I get it? You can go to many exchanges and get it. If you're gonna get a transparency coin like Bitcoin or Ethereum or BSV or any of the transparent coins out there, I would get it from a KYC AML exchange, because transparent coins have this thing. Since they're transparent, they carry history with them, so they could be tainted. They could have been used. That Bitcoin you're buying from someone on the street could have been used in something illicit somewhere in the world, and you don't want to end up with dirty Bitcoin. So you don't have that problem with Monero. You don't have that problem with Pirate Chain, because there is no history following you with privacy coins. That's why we call them cryptocurrencies proper, you know? So look, man, the real answer I give people whenever they ask me this question is, don't buy anything. Like, for real, don't buy anything. Put your $100 in your pocket and give yourself a month, a week, however much you need to open up the laptop, go to a computer, and start researching this yourself. If you're waiting for someone at a conference or someone on the internet like me to tell you what to do, and if you're relying on their opinion so much, then you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position of being manipulated by that person or someone like them. Know that these technologies call upon you to be extremely, extremely responsible with your finances. There is no FDIC. This is the Wild West. You have to understand these things inside and out for yourself. So the real answer to your question is, don't buy any crypto at all. Sit down, and everything is on the internet. Start researching. If you want a curated place to find out what's best in crypto, obviously I'm biased. I would recommend, hey, join the Crypto Vigilante. That's all we do. We teach people like you. But so I would say, join the Crypto Vigilante, right? That's what I would say with those $100. That's what I would say, right? Like, but you don't have to, because everything we teach at the Crypto Vigilante, everything we talk about is online for free. So look it up, go to my, watch all my videos. You need to sit your ass down and do research till you get to a point where you don't ever have to ask these questions. You have to be able to know where to buy and what to buy. The moment you start asking someone, or when to buy, where to buy, what to buy, and when to buy, or how to buy, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous position.
Losing you. I don't know if that's happening on my end or your end.
It might be on your end.
Okay.
Sorry. I could check.
No, it's okay. It's actually better now. So that's
okay, great.
That's fine. So that's
Yeah,
why I was saying. That's why I was saying just $100. I mean, don't put any more than that in. But I think if somebody gets $100 and they play around with it and just get familiar with it,
yeah,
I think that's a good way to start. Something
use
that
the Edge wallet. You use the Edge wallet. Yeah, and I'd say if you don't need $100. Just use $20 if that's the case. If you just want to play with it, get the Edge wallet. Download it on your phone, play with it. If you have a M1 chip MacBook or MacBook Pro, you can download the Edge wallet there as well. It's compatible with that chip as well on those computers. Again, it has to be the M1 chip for Mac or of higher quality, the actual Apple chip. I'd open an account at an exchange like Kraken in the United States, or Bittrex, Binance. I would open an account there, and a KuCoin is cool too. Trade Ogre, I would open accounts in different exchanges and just play around with it, get a feel for it.
Yep.
But there, at the Crypto Vigilante, we teach fundamental analysis. That is, what are you even talking about? Which pretty much has been the foundation of this question, of this conversation. What are you talking about? What are these things called cryptocurrencies? The what? Fundamental analysis. Technical analysis. When do I buy? When do I sell? Right? That's technical analysis. The when, right? And then the third is operational security. how do I actually use this in a way that is smart, secure for me in my life? So yeah, so I'm really proud of the fact that we teach all three:
Yeah.
the what, when, and how of crypto. And so
Yeah.
because the how is very important, because you are your own bank again, and you have to know how to use these technologies.
Yeah, and I like what you said about it being, it is the Wild West. People have to know what they're talking about. This is not something that you can just it's not just like PayPal or something like that. This is something there that is a little bit beyond most people's understanding currently, but it doesn't take that long to learn about it, I don't think, at least to the point where you can use it. And I
Yeah,
do
it's
think
getting
it's
easier.
yeah. And I don't think I do think it's important to get, you know, again, this is not financial advice, but I believe that, you know, I personally don't look at crypto as being an investment. I look at it as a means to get some of my assets out of the system. And I don't know, I don't think that's how you look at it, but I think it's important that we are able to get some of our assets outside of the system, outside of this financial lockdown that they're doing. And
Right.
I think that's the last question I would ask you is that how you look at it, or how do you look at it from the perspective of investment versus getting assets out of the system?
So the way I look at it is from a very personalist perspective. My goal is to help you guys discover how to fit crypto into your own life. And I will tell you this: how you see yourself having crypto fit into your life will change over time. So let's say you live in a very beautiful place. The government's amazing. They don't steal from you, or maybe not a lot. Everything's peaceful, and they respect you. They don't harass you. Well, you don't need a privacy coin. You probably don't even need crypto, you know. But let's say that changes, right? All of a sudden, this communist takeover or fascist takeover happens, and you live in tyranny all of a sudden, right? You're in tyranny. What do you do now? Obviously, your needs will change, right? So, look, if you want power in your life, power, you know, I'm talking about personal, good power, personal sovereignty. For, you know, I'd say that this is the tools, the most important tools that you could learn about. So I think every human being, at the very least, should learn about this. And thank you so much for putting this conference together. I really think people should learn about this. And I would be happy to speak at your conference, by the way. You know, I'd be honored.
Excellent.
Because anyone that is doing this for the world, to me, it's like, you don't know how much this means to me, Glenn. Like, this means a lot, because and thank you for doing this. And I want to ask you, what led you to doing this conference and to being outspoken?
Well, private, you know, I believe that, you know, my core value is freedom. And I believe that privacy is essential for freedom. And so that's why I teach people about how to get private online. And that is also why I'm doing this online privacy summit, to help just inspire the average person to get private in their life. And so
You should
that's
come
my
out
goal.
to Anarchapulco.
I'm thinking about it.
You
I'm
should. And
thinking,
you know what? Second week of Anarchapulco, because it's 2 weeks, it's like choose your own adventure. I would
okay.
love to do like a privacy seminar with you if you want. Just shoot the shit and bring people over on the second week. It's called Agora Forco, and
Okay.
it's free. I mean, or you can charge whatever you want. I mean, it's open. It's choose your own adventure. Second week of Anarchapulco. I would love to have you there. I would love to have your listeners and everybody coming to your workshops out there, because it means a lot when we actually meet face to face. You know, it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful thing. So yeah, we could do something. You could lead a workshop yourself. I would champion it and get behind it and be there
Cool.
myself and help out.
So what's the dates of that then?
It's
the thing
right
that
after Anarchapulco and Agora Forco. It's funny because it's from the 6th to the 10th is Anarchapulco in Acapulco, Mexico.
Yep.
And then from the 11th to the 15th, question mark, is Agora Forco. And to be honest, some people actually stay there. When you leave Anarchapulco and after all the events, you'll notice that by then you'll be part of a bunch of chat groups of people still having conferences and parties and get-togethers and workshops on health and wellness and whatever other crypto, privacy, whatever, that go on to like months ahead. Like the thing just keeps going.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's people that actually like just end up living there because their life revolves around Acapulco, and which is beautiful. Because then being there on the ground at all times give a service to the community in that they, when Acapulco comes, they are ready, you know, and they're ready to throw parties, to have events, to have the workshop spaces, you know, like now a lot of people in the community have purchased property there.
Yep.
And they have like bars that you can go to and pay with Monero, you know, all over Acapulco. And you can say, hey man, I'm with Glenn, we're gonna do a privacy. Okay, cool, here, put it on the calendar. We'll have a privacy workshop, invite people in. And so it's fun. It's a good time. You know, the last question you asked me was very important. I got to reiterate, guys, the most important investment is on your education. If you're not part of a Bitcoin meetup or a crypto meetup in your area, go to meetup.com in your local area and go join it. You don't even have to go to Acapulco to find beautiful people. You'll be surprised how in your local area, there are crypto and liberty meetups happening all the time. Now, if there isn't one in your local area, create one and you'll be shocked. And you don't need to even be an extrovert. All you have to do is just, you know, go to a bar, coffee shop, bookstore, and set up shop once a week with a sign that says Bitcoin meetup, crypto meetup, liberty meetup, whatever you want to call it, and bring some beers. You know, people just come and chat, you know, around you. And you'll form the community that we all need, you know.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Rafael. Now, how do people see you? How do they follow you?
So on Twitter, you can follow me at Vamos Vigilante. Follow me follow cryptovigilante.io. You can follow Vigilante Crypto on Twitter for the Crypto Vigilante. You can follow the Dollar Vigilante at Dollar Vigilante as well. You can follow Lucy B Tacos on Twitter. You can yeah, dude, just become part of the family. Join the Dollar Vigilante and Crypto Vigilante. That's the surefire way of being in touch with us on a daily basis, getting information from us daily, as we navigate these waters.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. And
it.
yeah, thank you for having me here.
Freedom, come and get some. Fresh out of the cage, feel the corruption. Thoughts get caught, webs get spun. Are we free or just free to be dumb? All aboard, we're gonna be saved. Set the stage, roll out the next wave. Where the